Motivation is the pathway that will always get you from where you are to where you want to be. Motivation is being able to go in the act of service in a goal. Is motivation enough to actually attain the goal? No, but this video will ensure that everything that you're looking for by using these few little elements along with motivation, you will always get from where you are to where you want to be. So let's get into it. Motivation. Motivation is, if we use running a marathon as an example, when you finish the run, when you're crossing the ribbon, when you're on the other side of the platform and you see the number of how long it took you to run the race, that is the motivation. When you actually attain it, what it looks like, what it feels like, that's what motivation is. In order to actually get through running a marathon, you actually need these other three different elements. And they are responsibility, consistency, and discipline. When you apply motivation, consistency, responsibility, and discipline, you can attain anything you have ever wanted to achieve in your whole life. So responsibility is the state or fact of having a duty. When you think of responsibility, the state or fact of having a duty, when you think about a single mother that has 3 children, she has a responsibility to ensuring that her children are fed, that they have a roof over their head, that they have clothes, and they have the necessities that they need in order to have a fulfilled life. When she's working 2 or 3 jobs in order to ensure that she can actually provide that for them, that is responsibility. Responsibility can also be looked at duty. When you have a duty to yourself and you want to achieve a plan, that is being responsible for the outcome of anything you want in your life. And that's why it's important, because when you set out to train, if you're already an avid runner, maybe you need 3 months or 6 months. But if you haven't run a marathon before, then you kind of create your little plan and you work backwards so that you can attain your desired goal. So if you're thinking you haven't run very much and you don't know what to do or how does this work, first of all, you do a little bit of research, and of course you go see your doctor to make sure that you're healthy enough in order to be able to pursue this. And then after that you go, okay, so in the next year, in the next 12 months, I'm going to go from running nothing to being able to run a short run and a long run of maybe 17 miles or 19 miles, which is a big thing if you haven't done this before. So when you calculate month 1, running 1 mile a day, or running 1 mile 3 or 4 times a week, just to understand how does your body work. And of course, because you have a responsibility to yourself, because this is something you're going to achieve, you also know that it's going to hurt. Like your body's going to be sore for the first month, right? This is all part of when you really use the motivation, because you're like, oh my goodness, I'm going to run this race. I really see myself completing it. I want to see my time on the other side of the finish line. So on the most hardest moments that you're going through in training, you will segue right into this beautifulness, which is called discipline. Discipline is the code of behavior. It's the practice of training people to obey orders. So focus on the practice of training. When you're training for a marathon, just to use it as an example, right? It's a year-long journey. Being disciplined to be able to go out and run that 1 mile 2 or 3 times a week for the first week, and then going up to 1.5 miles, and then going up to 4 or 5 miles in the course of the first month. It takes discipline. And it takes responsibility, because it's something that you have promised yourself, and it's something that you're sure to attain by just being responsible and honoring what you said you were going to complete for yourself, and adding in that discipline. The third word or element that we can add into this is called consistency. Consistency is the state or condition of always happening or behaving in a manner or the same way. So when you're consistent, you could look at as a focal, you could look at McDonald's, for example. McDonald's, you know McDonald's every time you see it because it has the golden arches. When you walk into the restaurant, it's set up the same way. You order in the same spot, and the French fries and the hamburgers and the presentation is always the same. And that's another way of saying consistent. It's always consistent. So when we use running a marathon and attaining that at the end of 12 months, consistency is so important because when you create a schedule, right, because you have your motivation, which is attaining the goal, you have the responsibility or duty that you have placed on yourself by honoring yourself and being committed to completing this task, right? And then you have that discipline, and the discipline is, it's that practice of training. It's the behavior in yourself that even when you're tired, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're sore, or maybe your friends are going out and it's right in the center of the time when you actually go and do your long run, and you're like, forget about it. The thing that happens when we lack discipline and when we lack consistency is that one or two times, sure, whatever. But the easier aspect is going, I don't want to do it. Oh, I have something else. Oh, I'm not interested. Or, oh, I have friends or something else I want to do. And what happens is that 2 or 3 weeks goes by, and then when you go out to run again, it's so much harder because you've lost that momentum. You've lost the momentum in the training. And when you're going to do something like running a marathon, for example, it's so important to maintain that momentum, because momentum will always drive you forward. Even when you don't feel like it, or even when you're not motivated, you're able to look at the schedule that you've created for yourself, or the little outline of a plan, right, that you're going to run every month. And on Tuesday, for example, it's going to be your long run. So then on Monday and Thursday and Friday or Saturday, maybe you'll run a short run, but on Tuesday, that's when you run your long run. And you know at the end of the time that you've put this scheduled for yourself, right? You know by the 11th month that your long run will go anywhere from 15 miles up to maybe 19 miles, because it's just about creating that endurance. And endurance is another way of kind of saying that momentum that propels you forward. And then the rest of that, when you're at the 20-mile mark and you have a few more miles to go, it's all about that mental discipline, because you've ingrained it in yourself. You have that responsibility to yourself, and you know that you're going to complete this race. You have already trained yourself to be disciplined, because that's the code of behavior. It's the practice of training. You've been doing it for so long that you know that you're going to attain your goal. And being consistent is knowing that 4 days out of the week you're going to be running. 3 days are going to be your short run, and 1 day is going to be a long run. And at the end of your training is when you actually go and run your marathon, and then you cross the finish line, and you are elated and exhausted and sore and overwhelmed. And part of the reason why is because the motivation that has driven you, the motivation is the pathway that's always going to lead you from where you are to where you want to be. So when you break this down here, these 4 aspects of being able to get from where you are to where you want to be, you can apply it on anything. If your motivation is to finish university, to actually get into a university and complete the program in 4 years, you have like a little plan of what university you want to go to and what program do you want to study, right? That's the basic, that's the motivation. The discipline, the responsibility, and the consistency comes in that, yeah, we can party and have a great time because it's life. You must have a balance in being able to enjoy your life. But part of the responsibility is also recognizing that if you have a final or a mid-semester surprise quiz, that you have actually been responsible and you've been consistent and you've been disciplined in studying throughout the semester so that you have good grades and that you actually have deeper knowledge of the information as you move from semester to semester. And then by the end of the 4 years, you have this wealth of information, and you're able to retain a mass amount of information, and you're able to use it in whatever field you wanted to go into. And that's the motivation, so that you can see that from running a race, or if you want to go to university, or if you want to start your own business, it's the same 4 principles, right? The motivation is, what business is it that you want to start? And regardless of what it is, you know you're going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be a lot of responsibility. It's going to be consistently doing whatever it takes in order for you to do that. And that also comes from having a defined objective, having objectives of what you want to achieve, being able to define those objectives, creating a small little outline so that you can actually have something that you can follow and it's trackable in attaining your success. And you're consistent. You're consistent, disciplined, you're responsible, and you have that motivation. So if it's starting a business, or it could be that you are going after your first car, you know, you're going to purchase your new car. You've had a photograph, right? You have a poster of it in your room, or you have a poster of it on your screen, a poster in your room. Does that not show my age or where I'm from? I know, right? So you have a poster or a screenshot on your phone or on your computer of the car that you want to have. That's the motivation. In order to get that car, it's about having an objective. I want this car, this model, this is how much it costs. Then you define it. How much, what do I have to do in order for me to purchase the car that I want? That's defining it. And then you create a small little outline. And the outline is it $20,000? Is it $10,000? Is it $5,000? Whatever it is, do you have the $5,000? Do you have the $10,000? Do you have the $30,000 or $50,000? If you don't, how do you go about getting it? And that's what the outline is. Is it something that you get a loan? Is it something that you put half payment down? Whatever it is, that's how you're able to put it into defining that aspect of your plan in order to get the car that you want, which is your motivation. And then you break it down into small actionable steps. And when you take those small actionable steps, each one, execute it. Then you come back and go to your small actionable steps. You take the next one, you complete it, it's executed. So part of anything that you want to fulfill, anything that you want to accomplish in your life comes down to, yes, motivation is important, because motivation is the pathway that's always going to get you from where you are to where you want to be. In addition to motivation, it's important to use responsibility to you and you yourself, my darlings, because you know what? The most important relationship that you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. So honoring what you say to yourself and completing the things that you promise you're going to do help build up that strength and that self-worth and that value that you have for yourself. So when you know that you have motivation, responsibility, you have discipline, and you have consistency, these 4 things, along with a small detailed plan, right? That's objectives, define them, have a wonderful outline, and then executable little steps in order to always get from where you are to where you want to be. I trust you enjoyed everything about this video and that it helps you in attaining whatever it is that you want, just by understanding the difference between motivation and consistency and discipline and responsibility, because these are all the factors that you and I both need in order to live our life with grace, integrity, and confidence. Every Thursday I drop a new video. If you have any questions, write